It's on. Back at you one more again in Tesfa, Ethiopian cuisine on the north side. Just gonna do the recap of my Ethiopian trip. I got a lot to say, but I'm gonna try to make it quick. First and foremost, thank you to my subscribers. We hit 500, like I knew it was gonna happen soon. So thanks to every single person who subscribed, like, share the videos, everybody dropping comments. I appreciate y'all. The whole family. You know, I got a lot of love for y'all, man. I want to say thanks for every donation. Everybody that's been hitting me on Cash App. Even if it's just $1, I appreciate you, man, because you helping the channel move forward and you helping me make all these improvements. And also thanks to the owner and the staff at Hotel Lobelia. Y'all was super helpful. I had a great time on the trip. The only issue I had really was the weather, and my last 24 hours was a little rough. Like, it was 60 degrees the whole week out there, so it was kind of cold, especially when the sun went down. And it rained every single day. Like, it was little pockets of sunshine and decent weather, but every day I was in Addis, it rained. So it added to the cold. I had to wear a hoodie every single day out there, so, you know, wasn't feeling that, but otherwise it was a good trip. I was blessed. Now, I didn't get to see everything I wanted to. It's so many things in Ethiopia, you really don't have time. You know, I had 2 weeks, but I finally got to see the castles or palaces in Gondar, the waterfall where the Blue Nile starts. I got to visit Diradawa and Bahadar. I got to kick it with the hyenas in Harar. And I hit Friendship and Unity Park too for the first time. So that was dope, even though I don't have the footage from those 2 parks, but I'll talk about that later on. So as far as the good elements of the trip, just like I talked about in Tanzania, Ethiopia got super friendly, nice, helpful people, man. Like, again, some of the best people I've ever met in my life. What's going on, bro? In that man? Hey, salam now. So yeah, man, excellent people, man. Super helpful, super nice. I've never had so many invitations to eat with people, especially strangers, like people I never met in my life. I'm just passing on the street, they will invite you to come join them for lunch or dinner. And it happens all the time. So sometimes you know the people, sometimes it'll be my first time meeting them and they invite you. So that's love. I saw a lot of strangers sharing food, like especially on the public transportation, on the minibuses, where when they'll stop for snacks, people will break bread with everybody. They'll just offer, again, to complete strangers till all of their snacks are gone. But, you know, they got that sense of sharing and community. They got a custom out there. Hey, bro, what is called when you feed somebody? It's gorsha?
Yeah, gorsha.
Gorsha. Yeah. So out there, they believe in gorsha, feeding their loved ones. So you see a lot of people, you know, putting food in other people's mouths. Yeah.
Come together.
So that's another beautiful custom showing how loving and caring and sharing they are out there. As well as just in general, because I ran into a lot of people that didn't speak English when you leave Addis, the main city. And they still was super helpful, man, like doing their best to make sure I was going to the right place. I was getting off the bus at the right stop and all of that, so it was love. This Moses, I'm gonna get him on camera a little later, man. My window, but yeah, just really good people in general, man. And as far as the sense of community, it reminds me of how it was with black people in America, basically at the start of my generation. Like when I was a kid, you still could get a whooping from your neighbors down the street, or, you know what I'm saying? Like it takes a village to raise a child, that type of mentality. Now, I saw the same mentality still to this day in Ethiopia, and ironically, I'm talking about in the city. We wasn't even in the village, but it still was that communal feeling of like a stranger might discipline your child, or I've seen a stranger step in between a mother and her child when she was trying to discipline them and stop the kid from getting a whooping, and there was no issue, no argument. So I just love that, man. It's a lot of love, sense of community, sense of sharing. So I got a lot of positives to say about that, but I have to be real about some of the negatives and some of the reality of the trip. First of all, let me start off with a few negatives by saying this was my 4th trip to Ethiopia. I spent a total of about 2 months there all together. So my 4th time in the country and my 7th time on the continent in Africa. But this was my first time getting something stolen from me, and my first time getting sick. I got food poisoning, and all of this happened in my last 24 hours. Real quick, I ain't gonna dwell on it too long, but yeah, my last day there, walking down the street with one of my buddies, and the laybars, the pickpockets, they got me for my phone. Now I gotta be fair and give credit where it's due, even though of course I ain't happy that it happened, but they was real slick. They knew what they was doing because I didn't even realize it was gone till I got back to my hotel. That's when I started taking stuff out of my pockets and realized, like, damn, where's my phone at? So I never felt any contact. Nobody bumped into me. Even the lady I was walking with, when we got back to the hotel and I peeped my phone was gone, I'm like, when did somebody even touch me though to take the phone? She's like, nobody got that close to you. So we was half confused that maybe I lost it or something, but I know I ain't lose it. I put it in my pocket, and I probably just got too comfortable putting it in my back pocket since it was my last day there after 2 weeks with no issue. Leaving the city, like I say, going to all these different towns where I was by myself, and the people wasn't even speaking English, but I didn't have a problem. It wasn't until I came back to Addis and that last day when somebody caught me slipping and got me, man. So before we went out and my phone got taken, we had eaten at the restaurant in my hotel, and y'all saw the videos. 9 times out of 10 I'm eating the local food, the bayonet, all of the veggies. This day I was like, man, let me switch it up. You know, I've been eating bayonet for 2 weeks straight. Let me try something different. And that was my mistake, man. I ended up getting some asa, some fish, and that fish messed me up. I was sick for the next couple of days. And ironically, the same thing happened to my buddy on the last trip, and it was because of some fish. Now, in hindsight, and I'm going to speak on this later, they were having power outages from time to time out there, and I don't think the hotel I was in had a generator because it would come back after like 10-15 minutes. So in hindsight, I shouldn't have been eating no fish anyway. I ain't have no business eating fish in a place where they can't keep it cold, you know what I'm saying? They can't keep the refrigerator powered on, then of course it's not going to be the best quality. But I didn't think about that until later, because the best fish I ever had in my life was in Ethiopia, but it was outside of Addis when we went to Awassa. They got a Lake Tana, and right next to the lake, it's a bunch of restaurants where they fry the fish fresh. So I'm thinking of that, like, man, I want some of that fish from Awassa. Tried the fried fish, and it tore me up, man. But thank God for tokorajmu, black seed oil, ganja, which settled my stomach, and something I just learned about called diatomaceous earth. I'll spell it out in the video. The black seed oil and the ganja helped a lot, but that diatomaceous earth, appreciate you, bro. That's what really helped when it came to the food poisoning. Well, I was able to bounce back when I got back to the crib. So, yeah, man, I went through it that last 24 hours. But other than those little issues at the end, the rest of the trip was peaceful. So I can't, complain too much. Plus, to be fair, because I want to be clear about everything. It's not like I'm advising you not to go there, that it's dangerous, but that is something you need to be aware of. But to be fair, it's the same issue over here, it's just different. Right when I came back to Chicago about a week later, one of my buddies said she seen people on the train jumping and robbing people, taking their phones, and then they tried to get her. So she was able to get away, but they was attacking people on the train, taking phones in Chicago. Then just last week, it was like a group of teens downtown doing the same thing. Big group, mobbing and stealing people's phones, man, and destroying property and all of that. I got a buddy who, a couple years ago, she told me her phone got stolen early in the morning on her way to work. A guy up the banger, he pointed a gun at her and made her give up her phone. So I'm saying this to say it's not like people's phones don't get stolen in America and Europe and all of that too. It's just a different version. And to be fair, even though it is quite a few laybars out there, I haven't heard of any instances of them being violent. Like, not to say it never happens, but I never heard of it. I didn't deal with that. My buddy, his phone got stolen. They wasn't violent with him. Usually they finesse it. Like, I know an Ethiopian chick, they asked to use her phone, and when she handed it over, he just got on the phone and walked off and never came back. I know another chick who, she was walking with her groceries and somebody came and asked, like, you need some help? I'll help you with your bags. And after she was done, yeah, she noticed that her phone was gone. I met a Kenyan dude who got his phone snatched. So it's common out there. But even though you don't want to get anything stolen from you, I have to say, I would rather it happen there where they not going to really be violent. They not going to put a gun in your face. You know what I'm saying? So that's the lesser of two evils. I would rather deal with people who at least deal with the art of pickpocketing, and they not trying to fight you or confront you whatsoever. They just trying to catch you slipping, basically. So as far as the food poisoning, it's kind of along the same lines. Like, this is my first time getting food poisoning, traveling anywhere, out the country, in the country, anywhere. But I got friends in Chicago who just told me they got food poisoning last week, eating at a local restaurant. Like, 2 different people. So again, it's not to say like it's any issue out there, because I have never had an issue so far. Eating in the city, eating out the city, in the countryside, they fished a few times. But this is the first time, you know, they got me. So, but again, black seed oil, and if you get food poisoning, diatomaceous earth is the way to go. My food here, so I'm gonna try to make this quick. The other issue is that I broke my rule, because my rule when I'm traveling, I already try to just mostly eat fruits and veggies, but when I'm overseas, I tend to be very strict when it comes to that, because of the risk of catching food poisoning, or, you know, not knowing the restaurants, how they prepare their food and all of that. So if I would have just ordered bayonet at the restaurant, I probably would have been fine, to be honest. But because I experimented and tried to fish, I had to deal with the consequences, you know. I hope it don't get too loud in here. I hope y'all can still hear me. So I guess I can give you the rating now. Now, as far as the food, and I'll show y'all a quick look. As you can see, I got the bayonet again. Now, the food in Ethiopia, I gotta give it a 10. No question, no debate. They got some of the best food that I've ever had from the continent so far. Not only is it delicious, but they got options for everybody, man. Like, you can get all veggies like me. If you're vegetarian or vegan, no problem. You can eat pretty much everywhere in the country. They got a lot of options. If you're a carnivore and you love meat, the lamb, the chicken, all of that is delicious too. Anybody I've brought to the Ethiopian spots, especially in Chicago, they never complained about the veggies or the meat. They always got good ratings and want to come back. So food get a 10, hands down. The weather, I'm going to give a 9. Now, I started to give them a 10 because the weather is pretty stable year round. It's usually in the 70s. It don't get much hotter than maybe 80 something. Don't get much colder than maybe 60 something. Most of the year, it's like that temperature year round. The problem was this year, apparently, maybe it's global warming, I don't know, but the rainy season extended longer. Usually by the time I go in March, it ain't really raining too much no more. For whatever reason, this trip, it rained every single day. The only time it didn't rain at all was when I left Addis and went to, I think it was Bahir Dar, where it didn't rain at all. And Harar too, the weather was nice out. It rained a little, but it was warmer, so. But yeah, I'm only taking 1 point off because apparently the rainy season is just constant rain every season. I never visited in the rainy season, but this was my first little taste of it, and I didn't like it, man. Like, I'm not a fan of the cold. I only brought 2 hoodies. I needed way more hoodies than I expected. I had to buy an umbrella out there because it wouldn't stop raining. So that's the only point I'm going to take, because the rest of the year is damn near perfect weather, man. Especially if you don't want it too hot. But it does get a little cold, and like I say, I ain't a fan. Now the people, this one was difficult for me because, like I said, some of the nicest, most helpful, sweetest people I ever met was in Ethiopia. Only thing is, I have to be real again when it comes to the people who maybe ain't so nice. As far as the beggars, and I touched on this when I did the Tanzanian recap, the beggars in Ethiopia are very persistent. You would tell them no, you don't have no money, and they would just continue to follow you maybe a block, sometimes 2 blocks down the street. Sometimes they'll send their kids, like, and it's, you know, it's not the most comfortable feeling because of course you want to help people, but it's a decent amount of people on the street asking for help, so you know you can't help everybody. So it's a lot of begging going on. Same, of course, it's plenty of beggars in Chicago, but I would say you run into more out in, especially in Addis. I ain't gonna speak on outside of the city. Because in the country, I wasn't really dealing with that. And Gondar, Bahadar, Didodawa, people wasn't really begging for the most part. But in the city, it was a lot of that. But that makes sense because most people leave the town or the countryside looking for jobs in the city. And a lot of times you get there and realize it ain't as sweet as you thought. It ain't as many opportunities. Which is why Chicago got a lot of homeless people and beggars too. You know what I'm saying? Any big city, you gonna deal with it. The laybars, the pickpockets. That's another issue I got where, again, it's my 4th trip there. I never had a problem, but my buddy, he got his phone stolen on the last trip. And like I say, I got plenty of stories from friends out there who told me the same thing. I got a lot of warnings about it, so you gotta be mindful of that. Keep your stuff in your front pocket, because I think that's how they got me. I left it in my back pocket that one time out of the whole 2 weeks, and that's the time they got me. So that's annoying. People constantly asking for money is annoying. Now this one, it might be sensitive for the Ethiopians, but I gotta be honest again. The tribal beef, because on the street, on a regular day-to-day, everybody seems to pretty much get along. But especially when it comes to election time.
I'm good.
Oh, what's up, bro?
What's good, boy?
Chilling, man. During election time, sometimes it's issues, and this ain't only Ethiopia. This seems to be a problem a lot of countries have in Africa. I'm gonna specifically speak on Nigeria. Same thing where like they got the Igbo, the Yoruba, the Hausa. When one of those tribes is in power and running the government, the other tribes are a little worried. Sometimes they have conflict and fight because they worried that, you know, the other tribe is in power, so theirs won't be represented as much. And I've seen the same thing in Ethiopia as far as like the Amara, the Oromo, the Tigrinya. So that's one thing, even though all of the pros, the good attributes that I named, we can learn a lot from our brothers and sisters out there as far as community and sharing and all of that. But one thing I hope that they can learn from us, the Black Americans, is that unity, understanding that we all have a common enemy. Because even though it's a lot of different groups of black people here, we got the Nation of Islam, the 5%ers, Black Panthers, the Moors, the Hebrew Israelites. I've seen them debate and even argue sometimes, but I have never seen any of them come to blows. I've never seen any fighting between them. And I never seen any issue where like one of the groups will take power in the government and then the other one's got a problem. Because even though we disagree on some things, we all come together because we understand we all black at the end of the day. And again, we got a common enemy. So I understand where a lot of that comes from. The Ethiopian border was created by Europeans. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't created by them. So they combined 83 different tribes, different languages, different cultures together and said, all y'all Ethiopians now. So of course it's gonna be some conflict, some clashes because of that. And a couple years when the Italians was in the country, they added to that division like Europeans tend to do, especially when they're dealing with melanated people. It's divide and conquer. So they emphasize whatever differences that the tribes had so that they not working together, they into it with each other, which makes it easier to take power, take control, and play them against each other. So I understand where it comes from, but I hope that could change in the future because, you know, we much stronger together, man. So I hope that can get better in the future. The other thing I'm gonna say, it's a little issue when it comes to colorism out there, where again, I haven't seen any blatant disrespect of dark-skinned people or nothing like that, but it's the reason why most people, when they think of Ethiopians, they tend to think of light-skinned people, because like in Latin America, like in a lot of countries, Colombia, Brazil, all of that, you might think of a Brazilian or a Colombian as a light-skinned person because those are the people who get TV roles, movie roles. Those are the people on the news. Those are the people that they prop up and put in the media. But if you go to the country, you'll see that in the videos that I did, walking the streets and just interacting with the people. Ethiopians come in all shades and colors. It's all shades of the spectrum there, but all shades are usually not represented when it comes to, especially the media, and sometimes positions of power. So I don't like that. I've had a couple different Ethiopian women make comments about like, oh, I don't want to be in the sun. They fear getting darker. A lot of them walk around with umbrellas, and I know they say that's tied to the royalty too, but why do you have an umbrella other than to block the sunshine and to stop you from getting darker? So I ain't a fan of that. And the last thing I'm gonna say is, to be honest, man, I see a little tendency for them to sometimes get confrontational. It's been a couple instances myself where I haven't had to fight anybody, but like, I remember once I walk around with my hood on, especially at night, because when I do that, they can't see my braids or nothing. Nobody treats me like I'm foreign. They assume I'm Ethiopian. I guess my face look enough like it. Them. They leave me alone, but the downside to that is a lot of the homeless people, they will walk around with hoodies on too because it gets cold at night. Well, I used to think my first trip, like, why is all these Africans walking around with hoodies? Like, I know they get hot, but in that country, not really. And you need a hoodie if it rains or, at night. So, walking around with my hoodie on, and I went into this little, it was like a tour guide where he was selling tours or whatever. So I went in just to ask the guy, what his prices were, just to shop around. And as soon as he saw me, he turned around and was, yell him. So he basically was yelling at me like, I ain't got no money, like, get out. Because he thought I guess was either homeless or poor because he saw me like this. So that assumption, just because I got a hood on, that I'm probably one of these, dudes on the street, I ain't got no money or whatever, I didn't appreciate that. And his immediate response and reaction was like, I ain't got no money, get out. He hollered at me. So I just left. I ain't explained myself. Like, I'm not going to be your customer. This is how you treat random people coming in. Even if you think I'm homeless, you ain't have to, or I'm poor, you ain't have to holler at me. You know what I'm saying? Now, to be fair again, I know some of that energy comes from a good place. That's probably why Ethiopia never been colonized, because they people are prone to, defend themselves, fight back, you know what I mean? But like I say, maybe that leads a little into them just being confrontational in general. I don't know, but nice people, super helpful, super sweet, all of that. But if they think it's any issue or you offend them, or they will be quick to address it. So I appreciate that on one hand and respect it and love it, but sometimes it has backfired, you know what I mean? So the people, I wanted to give them an 8, but honestly, because of the amount of pickpockets, because it's a lot of people who steady asking, for Burr, I'm gonna have to say 7.5, man. Like, as beautiful and as sweet and helpful as the people are, the ones that ain't helpful, that ain't nice, that ain't friendly, mess it up for the other one. So the vast majority of my interactions, the people I met, have been positive. Most of them been good, but it's enough of a population of people that ain't, that it will annoy you sometimes. You know what I mean? The prices, I'm gonna give an 8. Again, most of the stuff is well priced there. It ain't too expensive. But one thing that's ridiculous right now is the flights, the plane tickets within Ethiopia was out of hand, man. Like, I flew to Bahir Dar and Dirodawa, and I had planned on taking the train to Dirodawa, but I just didn't have the time. The train ride is, I think, it's like 10 hours or something. So I wanted to do it just for the experience. I get to see the countryside and all of that, but I didn't have time. So instead, I bought the flight. The flight was only about an hour, but they charged me $150, man, compared to when I flew within Egypt, when I went to Luxor. When I flew down to Luxor in Egypt, it only cost me $50. And I bought the ticket the day before. And then when I came back, I bought the ticket the same day. It was like maybe 60. It wasn't all that high. A couple hours on the flight, reasonable price. Ethiopia, I was flying 1 hour, and they was charging me like $150 for almost every flight. I think the cheapest was about 100, maybe a little more. But that's kind of out of hand, man. And other Ethiopians told me, like, yeah, the prices for the flights went up. Even for us lately, it's kind of high. So that ain't cheap. The fact that it's such a big difference from the exchange rate that you get at the airport or in the banks, As opposed to on the black market. On the black market, you can get damn near double what you would get from the bank. I mean, of course, I get it. That's the whole reason the black market is worth it, but I don't think it should be that wide of a gap. You know what I mean? Like, I literally doubled my money getting change on the black market instead of at the bank. The last thing about the prices that was irking me several times when I would go to certain activities like Gondar, the Nile Falls, they would be like, oh, the price is this. So I get there expecting to pay that. And then they be like, oh, okay, but it's also an extra fee for your guide. So I'd be like, well, I don't need a guide. I'll just go myself. No, the guide is mandatory. You're not allowed to go without a guide. So usually, let's say if the entrance fee was 100 birr, the guide would be like 400 birr or something. Now, they not telling you about the mandatory guide. They like, oh, it's only 100 birr to get in here. Then you get there and you have to pay 5 times or 2 times or 3 times that much. So the inconsistency or just leaving out all of the details, I wasn't feeling that. But again, the food, the hotels, the majority of it is well priced, so I still give it an 8. The infrastructure, I gotta get at a 7. Now, I got a couple issues with the infrastructure. First off, it's the same issue I told y'all I've been having with every country in Africa as far as the prepaid phone system. This time, I went to Ethio Telecom, paid for a SIM card, and I asked for unlimited call and text, right? It was only 300 birr. 300 for the plan and another 50 birr for my SIM card. They was like, okay, you get a week, unlimited calls and text for a week. After 3 days, my phone cut off. And it was terrible timing because my phone cut off Saturday night. So I'm thinking, okay, tomorrow morning on Sunday, I'm gonna just go and, reload it. Even though it should be on for another 4 days, I'm only halfway through the week. I woke up in the morning and I was burned up. None of the phone stores were open. I went to 3 different stores and every last one, they were like, oh no, it's Sunday. We don't open on Sunday. So I had to go Saturday night, all of Sunday, and then it wasn't until Monday morning when they opened back up, I was able to finally get more minutes, more text on my phone. So again, just a big inconvenience, man. Like, I went without a phone for like about a day and a half, even though I paid for a full week. So instead of them giving me unlimited for a week like I paid for, really it was unlimited until it runs out. So still haven't found a true unlimited plan out there, and I hope they work on that because that's kind of trash. I ended up getting a monthly unlimited plan after that. But I was only there for 2 weeks, so I don't know when it would have ran out, but it did the job. So the unlimited phone plan, I'm still not happy about that. Some of the roads, like most of the roads were pretty good overall, but one in particular, when I took the road to get to the Nile, it wasn't paved. Now, to be fair again, they were actually in the process of rebuilding it and paving it. So the guy who was driving me, we saw the construction workers and all of that. He was like, oh yeah, they're gonna make this road smooth soon, which they really need to do. And that's why I have an issue, because this is a tourist destination. So just like in Addis and the major cities where most of the roads are pretty good, I would expect them to keep, a road to a popular destination. I would expect them to keep that, up to par, because you getting a lot of money. Like, a lot of tourists want to come see this. So why wouldn't you make sure that this is on point? But it was super rough, man. It made a trip that's supposed to take like maybe 20, 30 minutes, it turned into an hour because we had to drive slow. So that was the power outages that I mentioned. The reason I think I got sick off the fish, that happened pretty regularly. It wasn't constant. It wasn't even every day, but it was more than I'm used to experiencing, because Tanzania, I didn't see them that often. Now, the power done went out here in America plenty of times, even for days sometimes. Power went out while I was in Paris, in France, in one of their restaurants. All the lights, everything shut off. So it's not like, again, these are not problems that are only in African countries. It happens everywhere. But the frequency, again, it happened much more in Ethiopia than any other country I've been to. And I think that's why I got sick. So I had to take a point off for that. And the main reason that I took points off, the government apparently shuts the internet off from time to time. So when I got there and hooked up to the hotel's Wi-Fi, I'm like, all right, I got a strong signal, shouldn't be no problem. I couldn't even go to like basic YouTube or Google. It wasn't working. And then I realized why. My friend put me on game that, yeah, the government shuts off our internet from time to time. So they have a way around it. The Ethiopians put me on, it's an app. I'm not gonna say the app on here because if it's, you know, something that the people know, but they don't want the government to know, and the government might change it, I don't want to give it away, you know. So I'm gonna keep the secret, but it's a way around it, basically. So I was actually able to have super fast internet out there once they put me on game and I got the app. And I bought a SIM card out there too for my phone. Internet was working just as fast as when I'm in my country, but it's because you basically bootlegging internet from somewhere else. So all of those things considered, a 7 I still think is fair, you know, because you can still get everything you want to get done. It just might be some delays and issues depending on what you're trying to do. And one of the main issues is that shutting off the internet, man, because personally me, I need the internet to work. And I'm sure the rides, the taxi drivers, the boat drivers, just a lot of different people, internet is a part of your business now. It helps you get customers, it helps you use GPS. So shutting that off, you messing up a lot of people's money, man. You messing with their business. So that's a big issue for me, and it would be if I moved there. So 7 for the infrastructure. Last is the activities. Activities, I'm gonna give a 9.5, man. Like damn near 10. I would have gave it a 10 out of 10. The only reason I'm taking half a point is because everything is so far apart, which is not, you know, that's not their fault, but it just is what it is. You can't do a lot of the activities without traveling in between. That's why I wasn't able to see a lot of the sites that I wanted to this time, because I just didn't have the time. Like, it would take, I didn't get to go to Lalibela because it's like a 2-day trip to go out there, spend the night, and then the next day you spend the whole day looking at all the churches. Like, that takes a lot of time. I would have went back to Sheshamani. It's a couple things. I want to go to Haile Selassie's palace I went to before, Nerawas, I think it's Wando Ganet, where they got the natural hot springs. All of that is beautiful. I want to get it on video for y'all, but it's each thing is like a separate day of traveling and all. So it's a lot to see, much more than you can see in 2 weeks, which makes it beautiful. All the history, the religion, everything, the nature. But it's so hard to do it all in a small amount of time. So that's the only thing. That's the only reason I'm taking a half a point. But overall, I give Ethiopia 8.5, man. Like, it's the first country I visited in Africa. It got a special place in my heart. I love the country. I love the people. Love a lot of things about it. And I plan on going back in a couple months, God willing. Kick it with my buddy for her birthday and to shoot all of the stuff that I missed. But yeah, man, I don't know, to be honest. As good as the rating still is, some of the issues as far as the labors and the weather, if the rainy season is like what I experienced on my last trip, if it's like that for weeks or months at a time, I don't think I could deal with that, man. Because I don't like the cold. And it wasn't freezing. I'm from Chicago. I'm used to real cold, but it was cold enough I was not comfortable, and you would get sick if you staying out of there. So, but an 8.5 is still, you know, good rating. I love the country. Shout out to Aunt Stu, my homie that went with me last trip. Shout out to Ash the Plug, Damien, EO, Isyes, Eshetu, Yenya, my homie Miftish. Hope I'm not pronouncing your name wrong, brother, but my buddy Miftish on the way to Harar, Teddy, Niggasty. And a very, very special thanks to Sam, Moses, y'all saw them in the video, to Doggy, shout out to Fikr, Jerry, 1, 2, and 3. It's a lot of Jerrys out there, but especially Arusalam, but all the Jerrys. Shout out to Nataneem, Natanet, and Tabeb. So I'm about to eat this food while it's still hot. Still got a good rating overall, but that last 24 hours I went through it. It was kind of rough. But still a lot of love for the country and the people and the culture. And like I say, I'm still going back, man. God willing. So I'm out of here. Till next time, man. I'm gone. I'll see y'all in South Africa next in a minute. Yeah, real quick, I want to talk to my man, my Guadena, one of the co-owners of the restaurant. I got Sam on the intro episode, so it's only right I get his brother. They two brothers that own the business on the outro episode.
What's the word?
On the recap. Introduce yourself, young man.
Man, it's Moses, man.
Alright.
You already know you at Tesfa.
Yes,
Home
sir.
of Hope, you know what I'm
Yes, sir.
saying? Black-owned business, you know what I'm saying?
Some of the best Ethiopian food in the city. The best, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
man,
Hands down. But
Appreciate you, man.
I don't want to discriminate on the other spots, though. You know.
Well, yeah, man, you know, been here for almost since 2016, you know.
Okay.
Striving for new, you know, trying to get all the vegans, like my boy Bud right here, big vegan, you know what I'm saying?
So that's
Go ahead.
that's 7 years you've been in Chicago now?
7 years. But I've been in Chicago since like 04. Duty calls.
So
and
yeah,
like that,
he
man.
gotta work with to be continued. What's up, man? Anything you wanna say to the people before I'm out of here, man? Anything you
Sorry,
wanna
I've been
say?
caught up with Tesfa, man. They got us going crazy in the
And here
kitchen,
working
man.
hard, man.
Yeah, I got short on staff, but glad to see you again, brother. And
Always.
man. You know what I'm saying? You know what it is, and you came to the house,
Who
man.
niggas say, man? my brother Gobert said I think, you know what I'm saying?
I'm a ganalo, man.
none of
It's a
mine.
family, man. Whenever you come, you know this is a family house, man. Don't
Yes,
you know what I'm
sir.
saying? Bring everybody, man. Put them on, man. So
Yes, sir.
you know where you can find us. We at 1023 West Wilson, Uptown, Chicago.
Alright, okay.
You know we run Uptown with Ethiopian food, the best vegan,
that's
the
a
best
fact.
spicy, juicy,
Yeah.
spicy lamb, chicken, beef, fish. You know what it is. Come check me out, Moses.
Alright.
You can find me on IG, Lena Low Key. You know, you know what it is.
I'll
man.
put all the information in the video, bro.
But you want my number too?
Nah, they don't need all that. That's too much for them.
Too much sauce,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
man.
nah, I don't
Hey,
get up out of here.
and you got the
Bro just blessed me with
sambusa,
some
you know
extra
what I'm saying?
sambusas.
Yeah, it's only right, man. You gotta get you some sambusa. man.
Can't leave without them.
You know what it is, man.
And then, you know, before I get out of here, I want y'all to see my little, you know, I got a
You gotta get the
Eritrean.
map right there.
Nah, I ain't even get the map. I'm trying to let them see. I got an Eritrean on my shirt.
Shit, he rapping. The marathon continues, man. Ain't never stop.
Yo,
man. You
your
know what I'm
cuz ain't here no more. The Eritrean is.
saying? Oh yeah, she ain't here, man.
Nah, dude. I'm talking about buddy. The one that work at the security and all that short dude.
He was just here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was here when I got here.
I swear he was just here, man.
But go ahead. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah,
Cause she told me.
Y'all still together.
Okay, and then it was like right after that. So
You ain't right, man. I ain't gonna lie.
I'm right.